Well, if you want to get a sense of what happens when you open up your doors to massive amounts of immigration from India, look no further than Canada, specifically British Columbia, Vancouver. That province and city are overrun with East Indians. Get on the SkyTrain to head downtown and you'll be filled with East Indian immigrants. For Canadians who grew up there, it's now unrecognizable. Tyler Olivera put together a snapshot of India's invasion of Canada. Here's just a glimpse.
Many Punjabis here in Brampton.
It's like home.
This is Brampton, Canada's little India, where roughly 53% of the entire population is foreign-born, and India is the #1 country of origin. Where are you originally from?
I'm from India.
India.
I'm from Punjab.
Punjab.
Everyone's from Punjab.
From Ghana.
From Sri Lanka.
Jamaica, okay. Is there a large Indian community here in Brampton?
Too much.
Too much? Yeah.
In store, counter, restaurant, movie theater, everywhere.
Why is it so popular for Indians here?
I don't know. It's cheap.
I'm not 100% certain, but a lot of people say it's because the airport's right there. It's been going on for about 40 years.
What do you do for work?
Truck drive.
Drive? Have you noticed any big demographic changes here in Brampton?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the Indian migration that's come here recently?
They're okay, but they don't bother me though.
Nice people.
They're good people, actually.
That's just a glimpse. Well, get ready because the same thing is about to happen in Europe, where this week Ursula von der Leyen, the unelected globalist leader of Europe, made this announcement about opening Europe's doors to massive amounts of Indian immigrants using virtually the same program that Canada did. Watch.
Ventures. Finally, Prime Minister Narendra, we both know our greatest wealth are our people. That is why I'm so glad that we are signing an agreement on mobility. We will facilitate the movement of students, researchers, seasonal and highly skilled workers. And this is also why we are launching the first EU legal gateway office in India. It will be a one-stop hub to support Indian talent moving to Europe in full alignment with EU member states' needs and policies. This is good for our economies. This is good for the friendship between our people. And this openness benefits us all.
All right, there you go. That's what's coming. Europe is already collapsing under its own disastrous energy policies, open borders, immigration policies are now facing massive immigration from India. So will this be good? Let's ask Lauren Chen. She's a Canadian. She's seen exactly what happened to her country with massive immigration from India. Lauren, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. Although I'm sorry that this is the topic I'm going to be speaking about, because I'm going to be real with you. It's a pretty negative one, at least when you look at what's happened to Canada after mass Indian migration.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, what has happened to Canada?
Well, you see, by and large, a general decrease in the standard of living for Canadians. There are Canadians who are in high school or even coming out of college who frankly cannot get a job because there are so many Indians who have been imported who are willing to work for cheaper. And I don't know if the EU is as crazy as the Canadian government, but there's actually a program in the Canadian government where they will subsidize the wages of Indian immigrants if different companies want to bring them over. It is insanity. We also see the cost of living has gone up. Housing especially has exploded in prices, and it's getting harder and harder for even millennials like myself to purchase homes. A lot of Canadians don't have, the same prospects of being independent that their parents did. And a lot of this is specifically due to the mass migration. Canada, Native Canadians have a birth rate that's below replacement, which means that, housing especially should be getting cheaper, but it's not. It's skyrocketing. And it's specifically because of mass migration. And, when we look at the Indian culture specifically, what we also see, unfortunately, is that a lot of the people coming over are not compatible with Canadian values, like, I don't mean to be crass, but not defecating publicly. There's been an increasing issue on Canadian beaches where they're putting up signs against public defecation. And I don't mean to sound like a Western chauvinist, but I think if you don't know that inherently, it's not appropriate to defecate on a beach, you probably shouldn't be moving into my country.
Now, you have said you're not against immigration. You have no prejudice against different cultures. You're asking for reasonable and measured and slower immigration at a rate at which a country can adopt. there is no method for calculating this. We've been immigrants. We moved to Portugal. We had to show that we would use our own health insurance, that we were people of means, that we would not be a drain on their economy. Why can't that be a thing? It was not racist when Portugal asked us for that. We didn't feel offended.
No, absolutely not. I myself have immigrated and lived in different countries, and I think it's very reasonable for a host country to say, we want to make sure that you're going to be a contributor, that you're going to assimilate, that you're not going to be a drain, and that you're not going to disrupt our way of life. And for the longest time, Canada specifically actually had a very, I think, workable immigration system. It was merit-based, points-based. That's why I think similar to the United States, for the longest time, the Indian immigrants specifically that were coming over to Canada, they were skilled professionals. And so for a long time, generations in Canada, the Indian community actually had a positive reputation because these people were our doctors, accountants, business owners who integrated. And the numbers were such that they weren't causing these huge drastic shifts in things like the housing markets or labor markets. However, since especially Justin Trudeau came in as prime minister, that system has shifted. We're no longer talking about limited skills-based immigration. Now we're talking about mass migration, including chain migration, bringing over low-skilled workers. And we're seeing now increasingly that India as a country is just not compatible with Canada as a country. There's a difference between saying some Indian immigrants can come over, we'll take your best and brightest. Of course, that's not the same thing as saying by and large, we're going to have this blanket compact, like it seems like the EU is trying to implement with this country that, I'm sorry, but is a developing country. Their education standards are not the same as Canada's. Their professional standards are not the same. The EU mentions students specifically. What you need to understand, and Canada has been grappling with this, is that there are a lot of fraudulent universities in India, diploma mills, where they will just print out these fake degrees and award them to people who are willing to pay for them, giving that person a ticket to whichever country they want. The U.S. is also seeing fraud like this when it comes to H-1Bs. And so I would very much caution any world leader in doing this type of deal specifically with India when we're seeing the number of scams that are happening. I think it's also, relevant to talk about. We've seen truck drivers of Indian descent, specifically in America and Canada, cause these fatalities because obviously, licenses are something where there's also different standards. So just by and large, not all countries are like America or Canada or the UK. If we were talking about, a more immigration within these developed Western countries, that would be one thing. I think the general population is at a point where they would still be skeptical about it. But when we're talking about a third world developing, South Asian country, put the brakes on. No one in Europe has voted for this. No one in Canada voted for this. And yet time and time again, we see that this is where things are going. People need to be very concerned in Europe.
I was going to talk about crime statistics, because if you look at Canadian crime statistics, and I haven't collated all of them, but from violent crime, like every category of crime has risen dramatically since this massive increase in migration. And let me just put up some numbers here on the screen, just based on the permanent residents and how this has surged. In Canada specifically, permanent residents by country of citizenship for just Q1 of 2025, look at 30% surge from India specifically. Then you got China, Cameroon, Nigeria, but overwhelmingly it's India. And then you see over the past number of years, going back to 2000, again, India. And it's all part of this international mobility program, which is the same exact thing that Ursula von der Leyen is trying to do in Europe. So can we anticipate a surge in crime across Europe?
Absolutely. And what is frustrating that progressives pretend they don't understand is that the reason why certain countries are more dangerous than others is because of the people who are in it. Like there's someone who's got to be committing those crimes. And if you just, kind of blanketly accept people from that country, it just makes sense that your crime statistics would begin to become more reflective of that other countries. In Canada specifically, we've seen an increase in things like scams, mail theft, unfortunately, sexual assault. These are all sort of what India has become notorious for, and like clockwork, Canada increasingly is seeing the same as well. And I don't looking at the situation in Europe, we see increasingly anti-immigration hard right parties are becoming more and more popular. We see that in Germany with the Alternative for Deutschland, Reform UK as well. Even in France, we're seeing a growing populist anti-immigration movement. And yet simultaneously, it seems like the EU and a lot of the ruling class in Europe, they're hell-bent on increasing these very unpopular programs. I have a lot of sympathy, frankly, for the people in Europe right now, because it seems like their government is just not listening to what they're saying. They're doing the complete opposite. And, already in Europe, we're seeing some of the same things we saw in Canada with mass migration. Housing is becoming more unaffordable. Crime rates are going up. So for people to look at this and say, yes, we want more, I really have to wonder what the ulterior motives must be, because it definitely isn't the concern for the welfare of your actual citizens.
Right. And I'm just sort of confounded on how these Western states have dropped their requirements to assimilate. They just don't care, which shows a lack of respect for the native population in those places. In Italy, in Portugal, it has always been that if you want to get a passport there and you qualify, you must pass a language test. You must show a show proficiency in the culture. And so does this show that Western governments just absolutely are self-loathing for their own culture?
100%. And I want to be clear, I don't support these types of destructionist policies for any country, not just my own. If India were to say, hey, we're going to open up the immigration standards and invite a bunch of Somalis in, I could imagine a bunch of Indians would not like that as well, and they wouldn't feel comfortable with that. I think countries have a right to declare that we have minimum standards, that no one has a right to be here if you're not born here, and we are able to set those standards as high as we want. That's how most other countries, frankly, function. And it's very strange how when it comes to immigration into Western countries, the rest of the world has developed a sense of entitlement, almost as if you're owed being able to move to Germany, to France, to Canada, or the United Kingdom, even if it's to the detriment of the native population. And I'm very concerned, frankly, for the youth of Europe. Their prospects are looking very grim, like the youth in Canada. We are seeing increasingly a birth rate decline, which is due to things like a very negative outlook for the economy. And it's kind of ironic because the mass migration proponents will point to low birth rates as reasons why we need to invite all of these other people in, largely from the third world. And yet we see consistently that it's these people from the third world who are largely making things more unaffordable, and also, frankly, sucking up a lot of resources that would otherwise go to the native population in terms of things like welfare. Especially, there's a big scandal in America over the disproportionate use of welfare amongst Somali immigrants. I think it's fair to say that if there are people who are from your country who are struggling, your government is in no place to start inviting other people who are also likely to have to depend on those government benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lauren Chen, great to have you on the show for the first time. I can't believe we haven't had you on the show yet. That's a tragedy.
Thank you for having me. It's been a joy.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here.
Come back, please.
Yeah, please come back. Hopefully we didn't
Absolutely.
offend you. Sometimes
definitely
we're off.
not.
Sometimes,
Thank you so much.
Sometimes she's off-putting.
Let Canada be a warning.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Oh my gosh. Lauren, thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. And also to talk about these dog pooping signs. I mean, you've seen them. Like the signs are on social media.
Sure.
Like here at the beach, don't take a dump on the...
I wish it was fake.
Yeah. It looks fake. It looks like it's real. AI, but they're very real, right?
Right. It's not an exclusionary thing to say. Like some cultures have different, practices around spitting and all of that. Like we have to decide what is ours. We thought we had one, but do we or don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if it's being offensive by telling people not to poop places, I'm okay with being offensive.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't spit gum on the ground in Singapore, otherwise you'll get caned. Remember that.
You can poop in San Francisco, where I'm from. So that is
they have
our
a map.
culture.
Yeah, they have a poop map.
A poop map.
Yeah, if you want to access it.
A-okay.
Where to poop in San Francisco. Lauren, we're sorry. We're sorry for this kind of talk.
This is really disintegrated.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right.